Hey, what's up, everybody? I just wanted to chime in here and say that the TD sequential indicator is working. Anybody can access it. If you haven't already, watch the video I put out. It was 1 or 2 videos ago of the TD sequential, and here's the indicator here. It looks different. Before I bring it up, it looks a little different, but it's actually the same. The format is different. So here's my indicator right here. And it's pretty plain, pretty simple, pretty clean, right? Okay, now I'm going to take it off and I'm going to show you this indicator. It's a little different, but it's exactly the same. So, and it's actually more versatile. Why? Because not only do you get the nines, right? You also get the sequential, the combo 13s. So basically a 13, right? You don't have to use them, right? And there's a lot more. You can see these blue dots, the red dots, the green dots. It's way more versatile. So if you don't want all that and you want it clean, you can just simply go to inputs, right? And you can just say show the nines only, right? Or you can go to style and change the color. You can get rid of the some of these lines here, like this line. Get rid of that one. Show stop levels. Get rid of that one. Okay, now it's starting to look a little cleaner. There we go. Now we got just the basic red and green. Okay, so basically, again, TD sequential is an exhaustion indicator, a combo 13. Okay, so let me show you real quick. So the numbers on top, let's just go here. The numbers on top are the nines, right? So if I take it off, if I put a line, a vertical line, let's say I put it on this 2 right here, on this 2 candle, and I'm going to put it right there. Now I'm going to take the indicator off, and I'm going to put my indicator. Would you look at that? It's still a 2. So it's the same thing. It's the same numbers. You can see the numbers are on top. Now, if I take my indicator off and put this indicator, you can see it's also a 2. But you can also see numbers on the bottom, like here, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, down here. If you want those numbers, you can leave them there. If you don't, you can take them off. But I actually kind of like this indicator maybe a little better. Why? Because it has the combo 13s. And basically that means, like, for example, the numbers are on the top are countdowning from one phase only, 1 through 9. The numbers on the bottom is like if you get 2 consecutive nines in a row. So let's go to the a higher time frame. See what the weekly looks like. Trying to see if I can get some good examples here. Okay, so here's like one of the best examples. So this is the weekly chart, right? And you can see the numbers on top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We got a 9 sell, right? It doesn't mean you sell. It means we can either reverse or we can simply have a pullback. And in this case, we had a pullback. I mean, look at the pullback. We had, let's see, let me get here. And I'll go from the top of the 9 right here to the bottom of the wick. That was about a 16% pullback. That was a big pullback. It doesn't look like it, right? Because you're on the weekly chart. But it pulled back from here, from 19,262 all the way down to about 16,317. Okay, so we had a 9, right? We pulled back. Then we continued even higher. This 9 wasn't too perfected because we started pulling back before, but it counted nonetheless, right? You could see the top of the wick came in right at the top of these candles, so it was pretty decent, right? And then we came all the way up and we had a 13. So before I talk about that, let me turn on my indicator. The one that you're used to seeing. Okay, so check this out. If you go to the weekly chart on Bitcoin, it didn't call the 9 that good. You can see this was the top of Bitcoin back here, right? Obviously, this was the top over here, the tippy top, but this was the real distribution phase. And you can see there's no 9s in here. But if you were using that other indicator, and by the way, it's not TD sequential, it's TRP. It's the same thing. It is TD sequential, but I think they labeled it TRP so that TradingView doesn't take it off the script because it is trademarked. So I think it stands for trend reversal P, I think price, trend reversal price, or I know TR is trend reversal. I'm not sure what the P is. But anyway, we don't have any 9s up here. So here's the weekly chart. We came all the way up. We had one 9 here, another 9 here, but no 9s up here. But if you weren't using that, if you were using this indicator, and it doesn't always work, and it's very hard to get a 13, and if you do get a 13, a lot of times it's not perfected. But look at this. We had a 13 right at the top, right at about 60,000. That's a very good, so you had one 9, you had another 9, you had a 13. Now, you also had a 9 here. So you actually had 3 9s, right? And you can get 2 13s, right? So it's a little confusing. And that's why I say if you're used to what I do, just take these numbers off and don't worry about the 13s. I haven't worried about it for the last 2 years, 3 years. No, I'm sorry. I started using it back in 1819, so it's been almost about 5 years now. So the 13s, right? That is something with TD sequential. My indicator didn't have it. Let me see if it might have it. Let me see. So here's this one here. I'll hit that and I'll go here and I'll hit settings. So yeah, mine did have it. So I can highlight the 13s. So if I turn that on, yeah, I think I remember doing this now, and I don't think it worked because I don't see any 13s anywhere. Let me see. Yeah, highlight the 13s. Okay, plot. Okay, there we go. But you can see we didn't have any 13s up here. So there's a 13 there. So the 13s are all off, right? So I'm not sure. Let's see. Let me turn this one on. So I guess, yeah, the 13 matched up here. The 13 matched up here. But not always. So it's up to you, right? Obviously, this indicator right here isn't available. So I would just rather use this one here. It looks a little more cluttered, right? I like my charts clean because let me show you here. If I take this off, you can see it's clean, right? Now I'll turn this one on. It's a little more cluttered, but you can modify this in the settings. So you go to settings and you can choose how big you want it. You could choose what color. You can choose, like, here, let me go to style. If I go down, so instead of these arrows, let's see, instead of these arrows, I can put an arrow. So an arrow down. Just have to go and play with it, whatever you want. Didn't really see a difference here. So, I mean, you could see here, obviously it's a circle and an arrow. You could change it. That looks more similar to the way I had it. And it even shows the 8 too. So this one, you could see the 9 here. It's white. I got to change that to black so I could see it. But yeah, I'll just go here, and if you don't like any of the settings, you just go to defaults and you just say reset settings, and there you go. It reset the whole thing. So yeah, there's quite a bit of information here, and I was doing a little bit of research on it, and it is exactly the same as the indicator I have, but more. You get more stuff. So you just have to go and play with it here. I mean, you get the buy numbers, the sell numbers, you get the supports, the resistance, the stop levels. Mine never had stop levels. If you're trading it and you want like a stop level, but I wouldn't probably use that because I don't. If I'm putting a stop, I'm going to put it where I think, not where an indicator thinks. The buy counts, the sell counts, and this one down here, show risk and stop levels. So it's up to you. It's entirely up to you. And then if you don't want the combo 13s or the numbers below, you could take that off. But I think it's more useful, especially if we're trending. Now, TD sequential doesn't work when we're ranging, right? If we're ranging, it doesn't work. TD sequential is only for trending markets. But if we're ranging, so take this range for example, you could see it's just a mess. You could see 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You almost got a 9 right in there, right? So, but if you zoom in on a range, you will get much more detail. So you could see, look at all this detail in here. So if you want to learn more about it, just go to Google, go to YouTube. There's plenty of forums and videos out there on how it all works, but essentially it's a exhaustion indicator, and it lets you know when it potentially is reversing. Now, I'm looking at all these 13s, and some of them, I would say a lot of them, are false signals. And the reason why is because it's very hard to get a 13. I mean, a 13 would be like at the height of a bull market, right? So if I go, let's go to the 3-day chart here. So you can see there was a 13, but it didn't reverse. Here's a 13, but it didn't reverse. Right? Here's an 8. It reversed. So that was pretty close as far as the 9 goes. And I like this indicator too because it actually highlights the 8s pretty nice. So if you don't want the 13s, like this, like look at this 13. This 13 actually called it pretty nice. So it's kind of it's a hit and a miss with me on the combo 13s. I think they work a lot better in the stock market. So here's the stock market. It looks a little better here, but again, if you're a beginner, I wouldn't even worry about the 13s. It's just a combo phase. There's now if we have, for example, the only way I would take it seriously is if we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A B C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A B C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What would that be? That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we had a 13 at the top of wave 5 with bearish divergence between the 4th and the 5th, right? If we had a 13 and we had, a 9 here and maybe a 9 here, right? Then I would totally take it serious because we had 5 waves, right? So it's really up to you how you want to use it. But for me, I'm just going to stick with the 9s. If I do see a major trend, right? Because ranging, you're not going to get a lot of 13s. Just simply go to the settings and take them off. So I could just click this, show 9s only. So there you go. I get only the 9s. But for me, I actually want to see the numbers, so I'm not going to put that. So for me, I would just go to the style and change and take the 13s off if you want, right? So that'll be it for this video. Just kind of wanted to show you. Haven't really played around with it a lot, but I just wanted to jump in here and kind of show you what's going on. Now, what's the stock market doing? I haven't really given my opinion on the stock market, and because I don't really trust it. Why? Because we're in an election year. My political and fundamental belief is that the stock market is doomed. Now, I've said that before, and it totally continued to go up. So you just don't know it. But for me, it's an election year. I don't not trying to be political. This is not a political channel, but I feel like Joe Biden was set there to take the fall. He's there to take the fall, right? How do you wake up a country? You put someone in there like that and everybody wakes up. Look at Russia, look at Ukraine, look at all that stuff. I'm not saying what is bad and what isn't. I'm just saying the conflicts, regardless of if it's legitimate or not. Look at Palestine and all that stuff. Look at the inflation. Look at all the crap that's going out there that they're putting into our school system, the colleges, the freedom of speech, right? Second Amendment, whatever. Pick one topic. It doesn't matter. It's all under fire, right? It doesn't matter where you stand on that topic. If you are pro or whatever, it doesn't matter if you support it or not. The point is the conflict between whatever situation you want to highlight is that there is conflict. And not to say Joe Biden's the only one, but a good example would be like inflation. Now, for me, I don't blame Joe Biden for inflation because he's a puppet, in my opinion. I think he's there to do the bidding of the deep state. And that's just my belief. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking. As far as the Federal Reserve goes, hey, they're the real problem, right? So people like to look at Trump, people like to look at Biden, but to me, it's like, nah, just look at the Fed, look at the World Economic Forum, look at the banking system, look at the corporations, look at the pharmaceutical companies. Those are your real villains. And what do? They simply go and pay off these politicians to do their bidding. And what is that usually called? The special interest group, the lobbyists, all those entities that, they're trying to get their agenda and they need Congress to get their agenda through. So, take Pfizer, pharmaceutical company, right? They go in and here's a good example, like the FDA. Let's say they're trying to get a drug approved in the FDA and it's taking forever. So what does Pfizer do? They call up the FDA, and let's say they call up a guy named David. Hey, David, I need you to come work for Pfizer. No, I work for the FDA. How much do you work for? Oh, I make about $70,000 a year. Oh, okay. Well, how would you like to work for Pfizer? And you could make $700,000 a year as a regulator for us, as a consultant. Oh wow, that's yeah. Well, maybe I'll think about it. And then Johnson & Johnson calls them. Hey, how would you like to make 800,000? And it's like a bidding war for these regulators. Then the regulator gets into they leave the FDA. They go work for Pfizer. They go work for Johnson and Johnson and or whatever, and then guess what? All of a sudden, their drug gets approved, right? So it's all, it's nasty out there. So what does this have to do with the stock market and charts? Well, for me, um, the stock market is their weapon for money, right? It's their sort of their, they use it as ammunition, right? To do all their essentially dirty work, right? Because for example, like the 401ks, all of the retirement funds, they're being drained and swindled and leveraged, and not for people who are retiring, but for the people who are managing all of this stuff, right? So I don't know. Don't really want to get too deep into that conversation. Probably would make a second channel to hear my honest thoughts about what I believe is happening. Because, people come here, they want to hear about TA and charts. They don't want to hear about politics and crap like that. But when I talk about the stock market, I have to set up the background. I have to set up the stage so that you can understand my reasoning when it comes to the price, right? And long story short, as you know, I'm sure you know, look at all the countries who have been rioting and protesting over the last 10 years, like France, the Yellow Jacket, the Yellow Vest movement, all kinds of countries all over the world, right? People are protesting their government because they are sick and tired of the lies and the corruption. And the stock market is a puzzle piece to that situation. And I think the United States is at the forefront of that problem. So when countries don't like the United States, it's not that they don't like the United States. It's that they don't like what the United States is doing. And I really say it's not the United States doing it. It's the deep state within the United States that's doing it. So anyway, the stock market, I think, is probably done. Why do I say that? Well, to me, it looks a lot like Bitcoin. So I want you to check this out. So here's what I think on the stock market. And I'll give two ideas for the stock market. So number one, this is 5 waves and we're done. This is an A, B, and now we're getting C. And I want to show you something. So look at this move here and look at this move here. Look how it took the top out. Okay, now look at Bitcoin. I'm going to compare this to Bitcoin. So there you go. So here's Bitcoin here, same thing, right? You had this move up, you had this move down, and then you had this little move up to the top. It took the top out. What was it? It was an A, potentially A, B, and a C. So look at that. Look how far it went down, right? It went down massively. So think about the stock market potentially being right here. That's where I think potentially where the stock market is right here. So, yeah, it's a dangerous situation. And, if you have a 401k or if your parents have 401ks, retirement funds, maybe your uncle, your cousins, your wife, your kids, your relatives, it's a very dangerous situation for them. Now, that doesn't mean go and run and sell everything. I could be wrong, but I think 401ks are the biggest lies in the world. Now, I've had actually it was called a 403b, similar to a 401k, but essentially it's you go to work and let's say they take 4% of your paycheck, and then your employer matches it 4%, and then they take that 8% and then they put it into a fund, and then they trade that fund, and they make the profits on the trade. You're just collecting the principal of that interest that has been accrued in your account. So you're really getting ripped off. They're making the money, not you, right? So then if you work for 30, 40 years and you go, wow, I started out with nothing and I ended up with, four or 500,000. Yeah, but you worked for 30, 40, 50 years to get that, right? And how much money do you think they made? Like Merrill Lynch, right? That's one that does it. A retirement account, right? JP Morgan. There's a lot of them that manage 401ks, and it's a scam because most working class Americans have no idea what to do with their money. The part where it sells them is, hey, if I put 4%, my employer is going to match it 4%. And then I also save money, and then I also set it aside for my retirement. So it's a no-brainer. And yeah, that's true. If it is a no-brainer, I would say it's perfect. Now, if you were born right in the maybe the 40s and the 50s, and then you retired in the early 2000s or in the 90s, yeah, it would have been great. Or even retiring now, right? But for those who are like in their 40s, who still have another 20 years, or worse, those that are in their 50s and still have another 10, 15 years to go, you might be decimated in your portfolio, right? So, I mean, look at the price of Bitcoin, right? Remember the price of Bitcoin? It came up, it had this little thing, came down, it went up in three, and then what did Bitcoin do? It just drizzled down. So, right? I mean, here's Bitcoin right here, right? You came up, you had this little thing, you come down, you come up in three, you take out the top, and then you die, right? So, going to the SPX, right? Same type of situation. You come up, top, come down, three waves, take the top out, maybe you die. I don't know. Maybe it's not that, right? Let's see, let's think about what else could be happening here. Now, the stock market goes for a long time, right? And it's kind of challenging to count, but essentially, I would say that this is one, two, probably all of that is three, or I mean, even, yeah, probably there is three. This is four, and now we're in five. So the bullish case would say, hey, if this is five, then that means that this is one, two, three, four, five. So that could be it too, right? So if you're panicking about the stock market, oh man, I'm going to lose all my money because Crypto Brandon said that the stock market. No, I could be wrong. That's why it's hard to know. It's very, very challenging to know, right? Because one part of me says, hey, inflation, we're going to continue to go up. Another part of me says, no, we got to go down, right? Because we're in an election year, right? To me, Joe Biden is the fall man. Um, to me, the good guys are in control of the situation. But in order for the good guys to win, they need to highlight just how bad the bad guys are. And what better way to do that than to show them what they do, right? So, like, um, for example, let's say there's individuals at school and there's a kid that's bullying a couple kids. But the two kids cannot prove that the kid is bullying them because they always do it behind their backs, the teacher's backs. So the two kids come up with an idea to let to basically prove that the bullies are bullying them. And it's not like you go and tattletale, right? Hey, he's doing this, he's doing that, right? They they have to show that they're doing it, right? So, that they have to do it in front of the teachers so that they can see that, yes, they are doing it. And that's exactly what's happening now. They're doing it in front of the American people so that we can see what's happening, right? So that's what I'm thinking here. So if this is going to keep going up, I think from now we're going to have a pullback. Why? Because if you look here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe we get an A, B, and a C, and that takes all the way the rest of the year, right? So we're up here and we're going all the way down, right? It gets everybody bearish. Then a new administration comes in and we start ripping back to the upside, right? So, that I could totally see that happening. So, here's kind of an interesting chart I saw on X. Now, I don't approve or disapprove of this guy. It's for you to decide. But if you look on this side, on the left-hand side, you can see A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, right? And then look what happened. It looks kind of similar. So, he's a historical timeline analyst. Some people love him. Some people hate him. Some people say he's legit. Some people say he's a fraud. That's not for me to decide. That's for you to decide. But he does have a YouTube channel called Bo Poloni. I think it's Gold, Silver 2020 Forecast or something. So he is a religious person. His theories are very far fetched. I mean, they're very like whoa, like the definition of conspiracy. Maybe they're real. He has been proven correct many times, but I mean, if you go listen to what he says, it's like whoa, it's pretty crazy. Now I'm not saying I believe it, but I'm just saying it's pretty far fetched. But yeah, his name's Bo Poloni. He does forecast of gold and silver and crypto and things like that. So interesting guy. So when it comes to the stock market, I really don't talk about it simply because I don't know what's going to happen. My analysis can be spot on, but the thing is, no analysis works under the circumstances we're living in now, like black swan events, cyber attacks, central banks, inflation, political hits, right? The two sides are at war with each other. We're in a spiritual warfare. The corporations, the pharmaceutical companies, right? Corporations. I mean, what do you think corp means? It means dead, right? Corpse means dead. So, the stock market is a device that transfers wealth from the impatient to the patient. That's true over the test of time. I mean, if you zoom out on this chart, let's go to the 2-month chart. I mean, look how massive this thing is. Look at this. This is going all the way back into the 1800s. And I still can't even fit it on my chart. Let's go to the 3-month chart. Okay, there we go. So this is basically the entire chart of the S&P 500. Now, to me, it looks deadly. Why? This was the Great Depression right here. So that could happen again. Is it going to happen? I don't know. But here's the thing. I know this is wave 1. This is wave 2. This is wave either 3, 4, and now we're in 5. Or you could say 1, 2, all of this is 3, 4, and now we're in 5. So wave 3 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that makes sense, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we're in wave 5. So let's see if we can count 5 waves in wave 5. We can't. It looks to me, maybe we go higher, right? 1, 2, maybe all that's 3, 4, and maybe we're in the 5th. So maybe we're in the 5th of the 5th, right? So maybe we get up here higher. So let's zoom in, right? Here's the thing. If I have a 401k, I know my wife does. Here's the problem with 401ks. You call them up and you say, hey, I want to cash out. Nope, you can't cash out. Oh, why not? Because you're stuck. And that's how they get you, right? You basically sign away your control. That's why I'm of the impression that you should be able, you should control your own wealth, your own destiny, right? So you have all this money tied up in the stock market, and let's say this is the very top and we're going to crash, and when you want to get the hell out, you can't. Now, if you want to lower your risk, you can. I would lower, and look at the Dow, it's sitting at 5,000. That's a big round number. That's a psychological number. If I turn TD sequential on, look at this. We had a 9, we pulled back, and now we're on an 8. So in 5 days, we're going to get another 9. So I think a pullback is coming. And I think this pullback is going to continue throughout the rest of the year. Either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, right? And that would be probably a 1, 2. And then we get 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to go down the rest of the election year, and then Trump is going to say, hey, look, the stock market's crashing. Then he's going to get into office, and then we're going to go, whip. But honestly, Trump has nothing to do with the stock market. Neither does Joe Biden. That's just a political thing they say, right? Obviously, they do have something to do with it when it comes to sentiment. A lot of like trade, for example, trading with China, profits, right? So here's what I would say. If you have a 401k and you're nervous, I would be nervous. Not to say that I would sell it, but one thing you can do is lower your risk. So you can call up, let's say you have Merrill Lynch. Let's say you work at, I don't know, AutoZone or what, I don't know, wherever. Let's say you work at a warehouse and you have, or let's say you work construction and you have a retirement fund, right? And you pay into it every week. And I would just call them up and say, hey, because a percentage is bonds, right? You have stocks and you have potentially treasuries. So you have different things. So if you're not sure what your portfolio is, I would call and say, hey, what is my risk level, right? Just talk to somebody, because I'm not a financial advisor. I can't advise, but you can call a financial advisor and say, hey, please explain my portfolio to me in layman's terms. I really want to know what my risk level is. I want to protect myself in the event of a stock market crash. So I would just say, hey, look, if the stock market crashes 50%, what is my portfolio going to look like? Am I going to be protected, right? So just say, hey, look, if the Dow Jones, the S&P, the NASDAQ crashes 70%, we go into a massive bear market, what then is my portfolio going to look like? That way you have an understanding, right? Because maybe you have low risk in the stock. Maybe if you're, because it's all about your age too. So if you're 21 and you work at a company and you have a 401k, my risk would be high because I got, long time. But if I'm 52, my risk is going to be a lot lower. So I would call them up and say, hey, based on my age, what should my risk be? And let's say you are young, but you don't want that much risk, especially when things settle down, right? Because I would be, it's very uncomfortable to have a 401k when we have $30 trillion in debt. We're on the brink of World War III, which, by the way, I don't believe is ever going to happen. It's not going to happen. I think World War III is a scare tactic. I think, the deep state, they obviously want war. Why? Because war makes a lot of money. Because why? Because it's the central banks. Central banks would love to finance a new war, right? But also, central banks also make out like a bandit because they finance. But not only that, then the war is an excuse of why their system collapsed. Because I think eventually the entire central banking system is going to implode on itself from all of the debt and the derivatives and the fakeness of what it makes up to be. And the central banks need an excuse as to why that's going to happen, right? Because they don't want to take the fall. So they're either going to blame it on Joe Biden, they're going to blame it on a cyber attack, or they're going to blame it on World War III. So if the patriots, the good guys, can stop them, then they have no excuse. So when the system does eventually crash, then, who's to blame? It's the Fed. It's the Federal Reserve. They're the ones. Because as soon as they start to lower rates, then they already said they're going to do it this year, right? As soon as they start to lower rates, it's game over, really. Because if you go back to the Great Depression or through all out through history, every time they lower rates, right, prior to raising them, a lot of times it's a disaster. And then plus we're coming up on an election year. So if I'm Donald Trump, I would actually want a stock market to crash, because then I can say, see, look, I told you Joe Biden needs to go. By the way, I don't think Joe Biden's going to be president, because I don't even think he's going to run. I think what's going to happen is, how he gaffes all the time. He's not mentally there, and I'm not knocking on him, but he is corrupt. Politicians are corrupt, especially career politicians. But the same thing is, he is setting the stage for him to say, I have Alzheimer's, I have dementia, I have this, I have that. So I can't be president. And I also can't be tried for corruption or treason, because my mental state isn't there. It's almost like they are planning ahead of time for when all of this stuff occurs. So this video was a TD sequential update. It turned into a stock market. Now we're talking about central banks and deep state. See how that goes? No, but seriously, I think the banks need some type of excuse, right? Because what do they want? They want to reset. They want the great reset. They want a financial reset. How do they get it? Well, they need an event. They need an event that says that their system sucks. But if their system sucks and it dies, then everybody says, we don't trust you anymore. So they need the trust of the American people, but they also need it to die. So how do they do that? They blame it on a war, like World War III. Why do you think they're pushing for war? Why do you think all of that stuff is happening, right? Why do you think 9/11 happened? Why do you think all the wars in the Middle East occurred? It was to shape the new financial system, right? So, that's what they blamed 2008 on. But it wasn't that. It was the banks giving out bad loans. People knew they couldn't afford it. So, it was all is a heist, really. And that's probably what's going to happen again. Maybe not in the housing market, but some other sector, right? And I'm thinking it's going to be the financial sector, the biggest one of them all. So, I'm not saying this for a political reason. I'm just saying this as a friend to say, hey, take precautions. I don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. We can theorize what's going to happen, but the best thing to do is to just be prepared. And the way I get prepared is gold, silver, crypto, food, water, guns, bullets, right? Because you never know. You might need those things if chaos initiates, right? Just, the people are waking up to how horrible things are. And just look at the border, right? Americans welcome immigrants, but flooding into the country like a tidal wave is just not acceptable, because those resources have to be shared amongst everybody, right? So it's a problem, and people are witnessing the problem, and I think it's all by design so that people can wake up, so that people can change, right? Because every 4 years they vote in the same people over and over and over and over, right? The same politicians. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat, they're all corrupt at some level, right? Not to say all of them are, but majority of them are. And it makes you think, well, look, if you look at Trump, the most controversial one of them all, right? Why was he hated so much? Why are they going after him so much? Well, to me, it's because he's a disruptor. It doesn't mean, I'm not saying he's good. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying he's disrupting their chain of events, and they don't like that. So they don't want that to happen. So that's why I think we see all this chaos, right? Because people are witnessing. So in regards to the stock market, how much chaos can the stock market take? I'm not a stock market guy. I'm just not. But if you want to follow somebody who's good in the stock market area, follow Gregory Mannarino. I like Gregory Mannarino. I like the X22 report. It's not on YouTube. It's on Rumble. X22 report is on Rumble. I like Greg Hunter. Greg Hunter and X22 are political, and then Gregory Mannarino is more financial. So I don't watch Fox News. I don't watch CNN, or definitely not MSNBC and CNN and all that. It's all propaganda. Even Fox News, propaganda. So for me, I like, citizens that are actually doing the groundwork. And to me, X22 report on Rumble is probably one of the best podcast I've heard in regards to what's happening. It's all his opinion. It's opinionated, right? But it makes sense to me. So Greg Hunter, X22. Who else? There's quite a few that are good out there. But for my channel, strictly TA and charts. Look at that. Speaking of that, look at that. I got a YouTube notification. See, they're listening to us. They're always listening to us. But anyway, the stock market, again, two ideas. One, this is like Bitcoin, where we're going to go down. Or two, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, then a continuation. So either way, I think we're going to probably have a pullback at some point. So there you go. As far as the indicator goes, here's the indicator. It's the same indicator, right? Look at this. We went all the way up. We had a 9. We pulled back. Now we're about to get a 13 coming soon. So here's 10, 11, 12, 13, 2, 4, 6. So in about 6 weeks, if we continue to stay postured, we could have that 13 come in around probably springtime. Yeah, about spring. And then we pull back into summer, because usually summers are bad for markets. The big wealthy guys, they go on vacation in summer, they travel. So stock markets suck, and crypto markets too. They just go into a summer lull, if you would. What I'm really keeping an eye on right now is XRP. If I zoom in a little bit here, let me zoom in a little more. I'm kind of liking this fractal in here, so we'll see. We'll see if that plays out. But look at that. We have this here, maybe another pullback. If this thing is legit, I mean, look at this. We could see $4 to $16 by May. I mean, that would be crazy. I mean, that would be my dream come true. So yeah, let me take the indicator off here. You can see boom, 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 right? Come down, come up here, have this up and then drizzle down, and now we're right here. Let's go. So we'll see what happens. Theta, nothing's really changed with theta. A, B, C, go, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go. So maybe a little pullback, then a continuation. Let's retest the bull market support band. Worst case scenario, we back test 84 cents again. But yeah, it could be one. I'm thinking it's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Total 3. I'm thinking it could be a flat A, B, C, and then go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that'll be it for this video. Sorry to get political, not really, but you have to understand. I have to set the stage so that you can sort of understand my analysis when it comes to the stock market, because the stock market is the biggest thing. I mean, obviously the bond market is, but the stock market is massive. Crypto is too, and crypto is definitely a factor, but the stock market is highly manipulated, highly political. You have everybody competing in there. So it's like a cesspool of cess, right? So, if like I said, if you're worried about your 401k, call them up, tell them what's my risk. What can I do to protect myself in the event we do have a stock market collapse? But then also, if we have more upside in that fifth wave, how can I also capitalize on it? So yeah, I actually got, when you can't cash out your 401k because they say, well, the only way to cash it out is if you quit your job, right? But you can migrate it over to an IRA, not financial advice, but you can do an individual retirement account. People do like a gold IRA or a gold and silver IRA or even a crypto IRA. I think I Trust Capital is I'm not sponsored, by the way, but I'm just saying, like, maybe I've seen them around too. But as far as a traditional 401k, everything has risk to it. So they'll tell you, well, the stock market, if you look at throughout history, it's been going up, right? The trend is up. And that's true. It is. It continually goes up over time. But again, if you're 40 or 50 or even in your 60s, you want to think about lowering your risk. So hopefully not too many people get hurt, because 2008 was the last financial crisis. We haven't had anything like that since. So to me, it's like an earthquake. We're overdue. We're overdue for one. So does it happen during this election year? Well, to me, it would be the best time to do it, right? Maybe at or around election time to sort of point the blame in one direction or the other. Or maybe it happens in the first year of the next president to point the blame there. Who knows? I have no idea. All I'm saying is protect yourself and your family and think logically about situations. And as far as crypto goes, for me, crypto is a real thing. Like, the stock market is not real. If I buy, Google or Amazon, I can't physically hold it. But if I buy Bitcoin or Theta or XRP, I can physically hold it in my wallet, in my whatever wallet you have. You can hold it in your wallet. and you own the private keys. You own your seed phrase. You own it, right? And if you don't trust those wallets, you can have a paper wallet. A paper wallet is probably the most secure wallet out there because, it's totally off grid. If you want to know what a paper wallet is, just Google it. So I think that's it because, for me, nobody's going to take my crypto away. I'm, gold, silver, crypto. That's, to me, it's real money. It's, um, it's not like, fiat currency where it's endless. So it's a real asset, and real assets need to be protected and stored away, not on an exchange, right? But for me, I like to store them away safely. That way, if an event ever happened, you have your crypto there, right? And obviously, cash is very important too. People say, I don't want cash, cash is dying. Well, the digital numbers on the screen are dying, but cash is very important. If we have ever a collapse, you're going to want cash. You're definitely going to want cash on hand, not cash in the bank, but cash on hand is very important. In a sort of crash situation, right? Because, for example, let's say you go to the store, let's say you go to Walmart and you want to buy something. Well, if the banks are down, that means you can't use your debit card. You can't use your credit card, right? Because there's nobody's lending money anymore, right? Or there's a cyber attack, or who knows. But if you have cash, you can always buy your groceries and things like that. So, and that's another thing too. Food and water. If ever, it's better to be prepared than not. If there was a situation where we have a credit freeze, that means distribution stops. That means the food on Walmart trucks, the food in Whole Foods, it stops because everything relies on credit. But if we have a credit freeze, then that means distribution stops. No more food, no more goods, no more nothing. So then what do? It's going to be like COVID with the toilet paper. Everybody's going to go rush to the store and everything's going to be gone in an instant. You don't want to be caught in that situation. So my recommendation is just go to Google and type in food and water storage. The one I like to use is called mypatriotsupply.com. They sell food kits. They last up to 20, 30 years. And it's just insurance. That's all it is insurance. So you have car insurance, you have home insurance, you have health insurance, dental insurance. Why not have food insurance? That, to me, is the most important, right? Food insurance. So buy a couple tubs of dried, vacuum-sealed food. It might not taste like a Gordon Ramsay meal, but hey, it'll get you to the next day, to the next week, maybe even to the next several months, depending how much you have, right? So I'm not saying that's going to happen. All I'm saying is, if you look at what's going on, things are not what they seem to be. Things are totally off the rails. And it wouldn't surprise me one bit if they pulled something out of their hat where it caused panic. Because think about this. Let's say you're a bank robber and you went in and you stole $1 million of money. And now the cops are chasing you. What do? You cause a distraction. What kind of a distraction would you do? You would light, let's say you had gasoline and you lit a whole block on fire. Well, now all the cops and the firefighters are worried about the fire and saving people in the apartment building that you just lit on fire so that you, the criminal, can get away. Think about that on a big scale, on a massive scale. So if the bad guys are getting caught, what are they going to do? Maybe they light off a nuclear war. I don't know. Maybe, hopefully not. Maybe they do some crazy thing that causes panic where everybody rushes to the store, and what that's going to do is it's going to take attention off of them and put it on something else. You see what I mean? So think about that. I will catch you guys on the next video. And again, if you like this type of content, maybe I'll do a separate channel for this type of content, because this is more of a TA channel, like I said. But thank you guys for watching. I will catch you on the next one. Cheers.